Shalom. First and foremost, I want to start this lesson off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to our brothers who are still fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to all the sincere Akwath out there, which are the sincere sisters. And shalom to these scattered Israelites who are amongst these heathen nations and look like these heathen nations. Now this lesson is going to be based around the fact that if the Lord doesn't speed up the times, then no flesh would be saved. Because like 2 days ago, Trump had tweeted out that, like it reads here in this headline, it says Trump announces 2-week Iran ceasefire after he'd warned a whole civilization will die tonight because he was planning on nuking Iran. All because he knew that the U.S. and Israel were losing this war that they started with Iran. And Trump has way too much pride and way too much of an ego to admit that they were losing. So he was just going to nuke them. And I believe Iran has a population of like 90 million people. So Trump was quite literally considering committing a genocide on those people who were merely defending themselves. That's the nature of the so-called white man. He's just a violent, murderous, just soulless monster by nature. And this is why the Lord has to remove him out of power, because the so-called white man will literally wipe out all life on earth. That's how sick and twisted these Edomites are. So through the Spirit, I'm going to read some of this article, get a couple of precepts, and Lord's will, you're edified. It says, the earlier threat, Trump's most extreme rhetoric since the Iran war started, sparked a wave of democratic denunciations, but was met with mostly silence from top Republicans. It says President Donald Trump announced a 2-week ceasefire with Iran on Tuesday night, hours after he threatened a whole civilization will die tonight. And about 90 minutes before a deadline he set for Tehran to reach an agreement with the United States. It says, based on conversations with Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir of Pakistan, and wherein they requested that I hold off the destructive force being sent tonight to Iran and subject to the Islamic Republic of Iran agreeing to the complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz. I agree to suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for a period of 2 weeks, he wrote on Truth Social. It says earlier in the day, Trump had warned on social media that a whole civilization will die tonight if there was no deal between the two warring countries. That threat, Trump's most extreme public rhetoric to the conflict, Trump's most extreme public rhetoric in the conflict to date, had included a vow to launch attacks on Iran's infrastructure over its continued disruption of shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Said the 2-week ceasefire, Trump said, is contingent upon Iran opening the strait. For its part, Iran proposed a 10-point plan to end the war, which includes controlled passage through the strait, coordinated by Iran's armed forces. Iran's plan also calls for compensation for damages and the withdrawal of U.S. forces from all bases and positions in the region. On social media, Trump called the plan workable. So basically, he, you know, he backed out of his, his threat to, wipe out Iran, basically. But really, as we know, the Lord did that because it's not time yet. It's not time yet for the nuclear war to happen. There's still some prophecies that have to come to pass before then. But a lot of people on TikTok were, very pissed off because they were like, the fact that he even suggested doing such a thing, just goes to show how sick he is. And then, of course, you have the Edomites who support Trump that were like, oh, he wasn't talking about nuking them, And everyone's like, well, how else do you wipe out an entire civilization of people? The only thing that's powerful enough to do that would be nuclear missiles. Like these Trump supporters, they're just as sick in the head as he is. Because no matter what he does, no matter what he says, no matter how far he's willing to push things, they will always defend him. The man was basically talking about committing a genocide on the Iranian people, and his followers still decide to, defend him. But that's the nature of these Edomites. These so-called white people, they are the wicked. There is nothing righteous or good about these people. Like, we all know that Iran does not have nuclear missiles. So if the U.S. nuked them, they would have no way of defending themselves against that. It's not like with Russia or China, whereas if the U.S. fired a nuke at Russia, Russia has nukes themselves and they could fire a nuke back. So it would be mutually assured destruction. Russia would get decimated and the U.S. would get decimated. Both sides would lose. But with Iran, if the U.S. decided to nuke Iran, Iran is basically a sitting duck at that point. They don't have anything to retaliate with against a nuke. And Trump knows that. And he thinks that that makes him so big and bad and so tough. But really, it makes him a coward. Because the only reason why he wants to resort to nuking somebody is because the U.S. military is getting their ass handed to them out there in Iran. The U.S. was not going to win that war. Slovakia was not going to win that war by conventional means, because since the war started, that's what they were doing. They were fighting on conventional means, firing a couple of missiles, back and forth with Iran. And Iran, hey, they were dishing it out even better than they were taking it, a lot of, if not all, the U.S. military bases within that region got destroyed. U.S. Fighter jets were getting shot down. U.S. warships were getting damaged to the point of having to be decommissioned, and like pulled back. So Iran, they were putting up one hell of a fight, and they were winning too. And like I said earlier, because Trump has too much pride and too much of an ego, he couldn't let that go. He couldn't be like, okay, obviously we bit off more than we could chew. Let's just back off and leave these people, these Iranian people alone. He couldn't do that, because then, he, in his mind, everyone would look at him like he was, a coward, because, like he's tucking his tail and running. So he didn't want to do that. So he thought the only other option was to nuke them, to nuke Iran. And there was so many people I saw on TikTok that were like, the fact that he even suggested such a thing, the fact that he even put that card on the table, just goes to show that somebody as sick in the head as he is should not be, quote unquote, leading a country. Because it's like, oh, you don't get your way, things don't go the way that you wanted them to, and your mindset is to nuke someone, like, it's never that serious. And a lot of people are genuinely scared. But this just proves, like it says in 2 Timothy 3:1, this know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. When you look up the definition of perilous, it means full of danger or risk. We are in a time full of danger. And in particular, it's because this so-called white man, he knows that he is losing power. The Lord is removing him from power. That's why everything these Edomites try to do, it goes wrong. And Esau has this mindset of, if I can't have it, nobody can. So Esau, in his mind, he's like, well, if I'm being taken out of power, then nobody's going to replace me. So he's willing to wipe out everybody because he can't have what he wants. And that is just proof that these Edomites, these so-called white people, are the wicked, because nobody else thinks like that. Matthew 24:22, and except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. And that's right. Because if the Lord did not, if the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, did not send Yahweh Shai back, Esau would literally kill everybody on this planet. He'd wipe out everybody on this planet. Whether it was through nuclear war, whether it was, just continuing to poison the air and the food and the water and things of that nature. Like, Esau is the complete opposite of life. Everything these Edomites touch gets destroyed. So the Lord has to remove them, or else everybody's going to die. Everyone and everything. Every human, every animal, every insect, all the plant life, the earth itself would just die because of this deranged nation of people. So that's why the Lord is speeding up the times. Because he's speeding up the times to bring forth these prophecies. And then he's going to remove Esau out of power. But let's not forget, there is going to be a nuclear war. That's definitely going to happen. That's the third woe that the scriptures speak of. When the scriptures say, behold, the second woe is past, and the third woe cometh quickly. That second woe was World War II. The third woe that cometh quickly is World War III. And a lot of people seriously were, on edge 2 days ago when Trump, you know, put that on his Truth Social that he was going to wipe out a whole civilization. Like World War III going full blown, it's still going to happen. But, there are some other prophecies that have to come to pass first. The civil wars, the race wars, the famines, and ultimately the mark of the beast being implemented. After that, after those prophecies come to pass, then the Lord is going to let World War III go full blown. Then the Lord is going to let those nukes fly. Habakkuk 2:1. I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. Verse 2, and the Lord Yahweh answered me and said, write the vision, and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. Verse 3, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. And when you look up the definition of tarry, it means to linger. So basically, even though it seems like this, World War III going full blown and the nukes flying, and then Yahweh Shai being sent back to deliver the elect before the nukes decimate the U.S. and completely erase this wicked place off the face of the earth, even though it seems like it's tarrying, like it's lingering, like it's, prolonged. The scriptures tell us, though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. And that's right, because the Lord is not a man that he should lie. He said that this was going to happen. So if he says it, then it's going to happen. He's bound by his word. So it's going to take place. It's just a matter of time. And that's what these simple-minded people don't understand. These simple-minded people, they're like, breathing, taking a breath of fresh air, because they're like, okay, Trump didn't nuke somebody. But it's like they don't understand it's still going to happen. It just wasn't time yet for it to happen. We're still very much in a time of war. Nothing changed on that front. Ecclesiastes 3:1, to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Then jump down to verse 8, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. And we are definitely in a time of war. Things may have temporarily calmed down as far as, the US and Iran be, warring with each other, but we're still very much in a time of war. Tensions are still high There's still a lot of hostility. There's still a lot of division. Nothing's changed on those fronts. And those of us of the hopeful elect, this is part of why we have to stay prayed up, because we are living in the most dangerous of times. Luke 21:36. Watch ye therefore, and pray always, that ye may be accounted worthy to escape all these things that shall come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. And this is exactly what those of us of the hopeful elect are doing, and what we must continue to do is watch the news. And I'm not talking about mainstream news, because all they do is lie. You'll get better information off of certain people on TikTok than you would get from the mainstream media, because all they do is lie about what's happening, because they just trying to make the U.S. look good. And there is no looking good for America. America's a wicked, disgusting, unholy place. America has never been on the right side of history. So, nothing you see on mainstream media is going to be the truth. But yeah, we are supposed to watch. Watch for the prophecies coming to pass. We're supposed to watch for the economic collapse that's going to happen. And then the civil unrest, the civil wars, the race wars that are going to take place, the famines that are going to take place, and then Esau coming in with, martial law and that mark, that MOTB, to quote unquote establish order. And once he does that, once he really starts implementing that chip, that mark, that's when the Lord is going to let those nukes fly. So those of us of the hopeful elect, we're supposed to be watching and praying always that we may be accounted worthy to escape all these things. Because we don't want to get caught up in the famines, in the civil wars, in the race wars. We don't want to take that chip and end up getting destroyed. We don't want to be caught in that nuclear destruction. So these are the things that we're supposed to be praying that the Lord accounts us worthy to escape. You see, these wicked, simple-minded people out here, they don't understand that these things are going to happen, because it's written in the scriptures. It's already been prophesied that these things are going to happen, whether anybody likes it or not. The Heavenly Father said that this was going to happen. So therefore, it's going to happen. But it's going to happen in its appointed time. It's not going to happen sooner than that. It's not going to happen later than that. It's going to happen exactly at the time and on the day that the Lord wants it all to happen. But yeah, that tweet or message, whatever, about Trump saying that a whole civilization was gonna die, that put a lot of people on edge. A lot of people. And this is exactly why the men of the Lord are saying we can't get comfortable. Now is not the time to try to get comfortable. Like, we are in the most dangerous time right now in the world. So you got to stay on edge. You got to stay circumspect, and you got to always be upon your watch, because you just never know when something's going to happen. But with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. In closing, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash, the Wadi Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, putting the spirit on me to do this lesson. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to our brothers who are fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to the sincere Akwath, and shalom to the scattered Israelites who are amongst these heathen nations and look like these heathen nations. I hope you all stay strong, stay safe, stay fervent, stay circumspect, stay prayed up in Adawan Ratzazah, which means Lord's will. Until next time, shalom.